Hello, gentle reader and kind listener. This is Chris Ringler of the Spooky Chris Podcast. This is my aforementioned podcast, the Spooky Chris Podcast. Hopefully you found it on my website, spookychris.com. If you found it in the ether somewhere, well, welcome, friend. If you have any interest in getting to know more about me or my books or the movies I've made, you can find all that out at spookychris.com, as I've mentioned. And this is my micro podcast. So as we enter summer officially in 2021, Father's Day, a day past us, I am stealing a moment with my daughter asleep and the dogs asleep as I still work from home while COVID kind of slinks out of our system. And I'm kind of reflecting in my way on fatherhood and being a dad. And it's weird because I never wanted to be a parent. I never wanted to be a father, ever. I was adamant from a young age, you know. I mean, I think we all, as when we're really young, think of the nebulousness of, oh, I'm going to be a daddy, or I'm going to be a mommy, or I'm going to get married. You know, you think of that in the same way that you're like, I'm going to marry my mom, kind of weird thing where it's not it's the wanting to be connected to someone forever. Like, you know, you don't want to lose your mom, so of course you'd get married because you have them forever. That kind of a thing. But I had never wanted a kid. Coming also from the guy who never wanted animals once I was out of my parents' house, and now have 2 dogs. So obviously things change. And the reason I never wanted kids, you know, a big reason, I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons, I guess, but a big reason was I'm broken, as we all are, but I'm broken in ways that scare me. You know, I've had suicidal tendencies and ideation in my past, with a whole bunch of attempts. The older I get, the more I have a hard time processing my feelings and anger. Like, I've always kept things bottled up. And, you know, you always fear that bottle's going to break. Like, I haven't properly cried since I was 14. I'm 47 now. It's not a thing of pride. It's just one of those things where I, swore to myself I was never going to cry again because of something that had happened in my life. And I darn well stuck to my guns. Look at me. So I've always had a lot of stuff going on in me, and I just didn't want to pass it on. And I don't want to be a bad parent. I didn't want to be a bad parent. A lot of people when I was younger were like, oh gosh, you should become a teacher. Because I was into English and this and that. And I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher. Because there's enough bad teachers in the world. We don't need another one. And to me, there really are some things that are callings and some things that are jobs. What I do now is a job. It's not a calling. But something like teaching, working with the young, kind of that kind of thing, it's a calling. And I don't have it. I like aspects of teaching. I like when I've had opportunities to teach. I like the idea of it. But that's always in an ideal sense. And that's not teaching. That's not teaching in the American system. It's not, that you're not going to get smiling faces like waiting for your golden droplets of knowledge. You're going to get kids that don't want to be there, who aren't necessarily into what you're talking about, who are whiling away the time just like you are. It's not even that's necessarily against you. it's against the system, or they're dealing with their own drama, just like you're dealing with yours. So it was never a calling I had, and that was parenthood. I never had that calling. Now, mind you, I only had, outside of my wife, I only had one other long-term relationship, and that was with a woman I dated for a year. And once we just got past, we crested a year, and she was like, "I want to have kids," and we weren't talking about marriage or anything. And I was like, and she just kind of decided that since I didn't want kids, I was not the man for her. And she was just like, "Nope, you are just like my father," which is a bummer because her father abandoned the family, so that sucked. And just was like, "No, this is not going to work." And that was that. And so I never really thought about it again. And it didn't help that I didn't have a lot of friends that had kids. I had a small kind of group of friends, and we were all still kind of youngish, and I was trying to find myself for a long time. I mean, I think we're always looking for ourselves, and I don't know that we ever find us, which is good and bad. I mean, I think it's always something to strive to kind of to be better and to try things and see what you like and this and that. But it's sad because if anyone should know us, it should be us, and I don't know that we ever really get a full understanding because we see things so close up. We can't see the bad in the good and the good in the bad. We can't see a holistic picture of ourselves. So it's sad. But when I met my wife, she did not, she didn't want kids either. But as our relationship went on and on, over the years, she changed her heart and her mind. She's like, "No, I want to have kids," and I still wasn't sure for a long time. And then I finally was like, this is something that means a lot to her. I need to open my mind to it. And as I got older, a part of it too was I didn't feel I was in the right position. I didn't feel I made enough money. I didn't know if I was emotionally ready. And I think what I've found, 7.5 months down the road from having a Lilith Maeve enter our lives, is that you're never ready. You never make enough money. And you're never as adult and grown up and emotionally mature as you hope. I think that's the thing we don't see as kids, if we're lucky. Unfortunately, there are too many children that see their parents acting just like them, like children, too often. But for me, I never realized the chinks in the armor of the adults, and never saw them as flawed and and scared and unconfident and stuff. My folks were older when they had me. My dad was probably he would have been probably about 37, my mom about 35. And, so they were older when they had me. So they're always kind of older. So they're a little more set in where they were at in life and who they were. Me, I feel like I'm made out of clay. And I'm always kind of changing. And it was a scary process. We had to go through IVF to have Lily. And I know must have talked about this before. But it was a scary process because it's the first time we had tried was the day my wife's mother died. So it was never going to work. It was called a mini IVF, so it was kind of like for putting your toe out there kind of thing, and it can work, but it's not as, we are going to make this happen. And it was amazing, the whole process, because the people we went through were, lauded about, like, these are the people to go to. This is them, Dr. So-and-so. That's who you got to go to. And he was adamant. He's like, "We're going to get you a kid. Like, this is what's happening." not long after we had gotten married, my wife had a series of very dangerous health issues that kind of pushed the timetable back. That's why we're much older than even when we started trying to have a kid, which is, I still think, a weird and gross thing to say, but, whatever. So, she felt like the clock was running out on her, because, everyone would tell her, oh, gosh, you're going to be trying to have a kid really late. That's really dangerous, and that's, oh, gosh, this and that. And people mean well, but they say these things that are scarier than they are helpful. And I get it, because I know I do it too. Like, everybody does it, where there's like, oh, I have information here, and you don't think about like the cost of that information to the person getting it. So she was worried about that, and after it didn't work we tried the mini IVF, which it really wasn't going to, because of the timing, with losing her mom like that. And we had just come off of the year before, lost my mother and a dog, and I lost my job, and blah, 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 like a whole bunch of stuff. So it was a hard time for us. And then, a few weeks after her mother died, one of her brothers lost his father. So it was just a hard time. So going and trying to do full IVF was scary, because it's a very expensive process. It's a huge process, and the toll it took on, was going, and we didn't know that at the time, but the toll it took on her is just incredible. And it's one of those things. It's like, it's easy to say once you have a kiddo in your arms, like, oh, I'd do that a million times, absolutely. But I think a lot of people, if they knew going in kind of what it took to get there, you got to wonder, like, how many people would still be like all in, like, oh no, that's all in, because she had to do injections every day in her abdomen, in her hip, in her rear. She would have to do those. She'd have to do all these, like, take medication, do all of this. She had to do a process beforehand, and then during, and then during the pregnancy she got gestational diabetes, and we didn't know if that would go away after the baby was born. And then as we got closer, she had other health issues pop up, so it was scary. And it's, about a month and a half, 2 months into the pregnancy, it was, she had a scare where we thought she lost her. And that was insane, because, we're during COVID, so she went into the hospital, like the ER, and I had to sit in the car. And I sat out there for 4 hours while these big groups of people kind of came or camped out in the parking lot, because there had been a shooting at a local dollar store. It made national news, I think, because the security guard had told someone to wear a mask, and they pulled a gun and shot him. And so all of the loved ones of this person were in the parking lot, and it was just it was a crazy situation. But for at least us, it was a false alarm. And so we'd every couple of weeks we'd have to drive to hour away to see a doctor, and this is a big long process. The process of, on my end was simple but strange. My part in this, the IVF thing, is weird and surreal. But it was hard on her, and when she had the baby, she and the baby were in the hospital for a week. The baby needed to be on a lamp, because she needed and I can't think of the darn name, because her skin's a little jaundiced. And my wife, they were really worried about her blood pressure, because it spiked up and down, and it was scaring them. But they were in for a week, and then they finally got to come home, and then a week and a half later my wife went back in for another 10 days. So I got to be solo dad for 10 days with this infant, this newborn. And she scares me every day. Still, jump ahead 7.5 months, because I don't want to hurt her physically. Like, it's hard to figure out, like, how to hold someone, how to lift them, how to feed them, and do things carefully. Right now we're scared to death because she's nearing the point where we're going to have to get her into her crib. We have a bassinet in our bedroom with her, and she's able to flip over on her stomach. Not a big deal. We all do it. But with kids, the fear is SIDS, is sudden infant death, and that she's going to suffocate herself accidentally. Wouldn't mean to, but babies aren't as strong as adults. And so I wake up every day several times during the night to check on her. And almost every night I'll touch her and she'll feel cool and she looks like she's just completely still. And I'll have to actually kind of shake her a little until she kind of, wakes up enough to kind of fidget a little and kind of like stretch and move because I was shaking her. And so I can breathe a sigh of relief and go back to bed. But now that she's doing the sleeping on her stomach thing, it's just, it's rough. I'm sitting here watching her breathe as she lays on her stomach with her head to the side, and it's just like, ugh. But I did this with our dogs. After we lost, a couple of dogs there, I just, I feel mortality heavily on me. And it scares me. But I'm also scared by this world we're in now. I have a lot of issues I hadn't realized because of COVID. Like, I have almost a xenophobia. Like, I don't like to go out in public. I don't like to go in stores. I still wear a mask everywhere, despite what other people do, because it just freaks me out. And the selfishness and meanness of people in the last 4.5 years has really come out. Like, it's always been there, but it's people, whereas people would be nasty, they would be called out for it. And now people take pride in their childishness and their anger and their meanness, their trolling behavior. And in response, I've gotten like more frustrated and angry at the world. And I hate that. This little ball of sunshine, and I hate that I have this fear and anger towards the world around her. I've known so many, women that have been set upon by men, and that scares me. The educational system scares me. She's 7.5 months old. She has a long name, Lilith Maeve. To us, she can choose anything she wants. She can be Lilith Maeve, Lily May, Lily, Lil, Maeve, May, whatever. She can go by her middle name, whatever. A name's a name. But just like that, she can also, like, if she decides, whatever path she decides for her identity and her, it's for her to decide. But we're still not in a world that accepts that. And I'm scared for that. I'm scared for what she'll face. I mean, like I said, I had at least a couple suicide attempts as a teenager. And constant ideation. Like, I always wanted to die as a teenager. Like, I went through hell. And cutting and everything. Well, cutting when I was a little older. And I fear for that. I fear for that because I know she inherits some of that from me. Like, that was a huge fear, is that part of my family. Is like, my family has cancer in its genes and this and that, but we're also manic depressives. And we have that in our genes. And I hate that she's inheriting it. Now, she's also entered a world where you can medicate yourself and get help and all that's great, but it's still there. It's like a waiting viper that you just hope she doesn't run across. And I wonder what kind of friends she'll make. All of that. So it's exciting stuff, but it's scary stuff. Like, I'm excited on the plus. I'm excited for the holidays. I'm excited to share Halloween and my love for Halloween with her, my love for Christmas, and all of that. I think will be great. It's been fascinating. When we told my dad that my wife was pregnant, he was very much like, okay. But this is a man who didn't expect to live this long. He's had cancer twice and blah, 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 blah. And it was my mom that her health kind of wore out faster, and she left first. And he's been bitter about that since she died, because he expected her to die first. That was how he had planned things, and he's a planner. So you tell him, I never wanted kids and blah blah blah, and so he didn't know how to react. And you see him now, and he adores her. We take her over there, or I take her over there to see him, almost every time I go out there, just so he can see her. And he loves it, and he loves to see her. And the more she grows, the more attached he gets to her, and that's wonderful. And she smiles at him, and she'll grab his finger, and she has such a big personality. She is in a phase again right now where she is a handful, and she doesn't want to sleep, and that's she's cantankerous. But she's just the sweetest little thing, and she's so smart, and on the verge of crawling. And I mean, I know it's one of those things like, I'm a proud father. I'm not a proud father. Not because I'm not proud of her or whatever, but my wife did all the work. I'm just trying to keep up and keep this little thing safe and do the best I can. I don't take pride in myself. Like, there's not, I'm doing what I should be doing. If you have a child, you should love it and nurture it and take care of it. So, I'm a surprised dad. I am a father in wonder. I'm a father in love. I love her to pieces. She is a challenge, and she is going to only get more challenging. It's strange to think that, when I go back to work in person, and we have to put her in daycare, I don't know how that'll work. Like, it gives me anxiety to think about that, and just like, it's going to be weird. Like, 'cause I don't, I've been with her almost every day. I've been with her every day since she's been born, almost 24 hours a day. Like, once in a while, like, something will come up, or like I dropped her at her aunt and uncle's when my wife was in the hospital, and stuff like that. So haven't been a lot of days where I'm not always with her, but so it's going to be strange. Like, I'm with her more than I'm with my wife. So I don't know how that'll work and how I'm going to feel. It's hard to imagine. And, it's all strange. Everything's strange. This world is strange. The world has seemed strange for years for now. Like, for me, since the loss of my mother, like, it's just everything has seemed surreal. But, and I'm very sad that my mom didn't get to meet Lily Mae, and that my mother-in-law didn't get to, because they would have just loved her to pieces, and spoiled her rotten. Spoiled her sweet, because she's a doll face. And it's, I never look forward very, like, I don't have like a life plan kind of thing, like, this is where I'm going, because I learned a long time ago that life isn't like that. That's just not how things work. There's too many changes. I don't trust jobs to last, or friendships and this and that, so I just kind of go where I go. I hope for the best. So you never would have expected to be a father. But I'm excited that I am. And I am pleased as punch. And I'm excited to see kind of what she becomes in this life. To us, she can be anything she wants. And I hope by the time she gets a little older and is ready for the world, like, things are better. We are in a scary place still. But I hope that the world has opened up more and appreciates and respects women more, and minorities and everybody and blah, blah, blah. I want her to inherit a world that deserves her. And I want her to be a good steward of this world. And I'm hoping that in small ways I can be a better steward to the world that she is inheriting. Because she and every kid deserve to inherit this world. It's not mine. I think that's what a lot of adults have forgotten. And that's disgusting, frankly, is that it's not our world, is that we are stewards for the future. We are taking care of things, just like the people before us took care of things, hopefully the best they could. And then when our time is over, we step aside and we let the next generation come. That's how it should always be. And unfortunately, we're surrounded by a lot of selfish people, a lot of, frankly, selfish old white men who are rich and want to stay rich and be rich, and they want to set up these weird legacies of money and wealth and power, and they want to hand it off so that their useless children can do even less than they did. And it's crazy to me. And they don't care about anything but that power and profit. So the damage they do to the world, they don't care. Despite the fact that, inch by inch, like, they're putting, there's a timer they've set on the earth, and they have to keep having kids because they got to keep that bloodline alive. So they're just kind of decreasing the likelihood that several generations ahead will have anything to inherit. So it's maddening, the way we have treated the world and one another, and then bringing a kid into it and going, good grief. Like, what have we done, and what are we handing this world off to them like this for? But I'm hopeful that we can teach her the best we can, and that we're surrounded by such great people in our lives, such amazing friends and mentors and inspirations and family, that I hope, she will be inspired to be the best person she can be, to be better than me, to do better than me, to reach further than I ever reached, and have more opportunities. And that's my hope. While she was growing like a weed in her mother, I would record audio files for her. Because, not even to be a naysayer, doomsayer, whatever, is you just never know what your future is. And we'd all like to say, oh gosh, I'm going to live forever. I'm going to see my kid graduate and get married and blah, blah, blah. Like you would like, everybody would, we all want that. Most of us want that. But not all of us get that. So I wanted to make sure that I had left her some at least some of my thoughts. While, I could, for the future. For future Lily Mae. Just so she knew who I was. And it's weird because we don't generally tend to know our parents as people. We know them as parents. We know them, and unfortunately again, some of us know our parents as people too much, too well, because they want to be our best friends and party with us and hang out, and that's inappropriate. Like, there has to be a fine line. You have to be a parent, but you have to be a parent that's compassionate and loving and is approachable, that loves them enough to be yes and say no. And I want her to at least kind of get an idea of who I was without feeling like I had to try to pretend that I am a teenage girl that connects with what she's going through every moment, and that I'm not an old square weirdo. And I hope that means something to her. I hope she gets something out of it. I think everybody has this like, oh gosh, I hope she's into this because I'm into this. I hope she's into that because I'm into that. And it'd be cool. It'd be cool if she was into movies, if she's into scary movies, if she's into weird stuff. But she'll be into whatever she's into. She'll be what she's going to be. I hope that means a good person who is open to life, open to love, and surrounds herself with people who deserve her. I hope that she learns that we love her to pieces, and that even when we are frustrated and upset, that we'll always love her. Even that when things seem the worst, that she can still make the best of it. So, it is strange, because I never did want to be a dad. But I'm definitely the luckiest guy in the world to be a father with a partner that is a wonderful mother, and with a kiddo that challenges us all the time and is going to just set the world on fire when she is ready to. And that's going to be a pretty fun thing to watch happen, because she is a charmer. So, as we wave goodbye to Father's Day and Mother's Day and all of those, if there's anything I have realized in my 4 million years of existence, it really is that fatherhood isn't about, like, the easiest part of fatherhood is being the donor, as it were, of your genes. And the hardest part is to actually be emotionally there, because you don't always get to be physically there. And I've realized that sometimes a father is a mother. Sometimes a mother is a father. Sometimes the best parent you'll ever have is a mentor, is a friend, is someone that you can trust. There are a lot of people that didn't get this opportunity and this chance to be a parent, and to make the mistakes we're going to make, and to have the triumphs we'll have. So even on the hard days, I'm hoping that we can keep that in mind and remember that this little blessing, or little miracle, is always going to be our little miracle, as much as she will drive us crazy and as much as we'll drive her crazy. Because we are very lucky to have one another and our 2 little hound dogs. And it'll be interesting to see what the world has in store for us. Friend, you can find all of my stuff at spookychris.com. I am an author, podcaster, blogger, filmmaker, all-around ne'er-do-well. I hope you are well. And I will talk to you soon. Take care.